Hello everyone, and welcome back to the XRP Insider channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are, in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP, and I gotta start with this from Stellar Rippler. Is David Schwartz Satoshi Nakamoto, or at least one of Bitcoin's original architects? If you hold XRP and you interact with the XRP community, every single person will tell you David Schwartz is Satoshi. Even the fact that David filed the patent for a distributed computer network back in 1991 shows he was years ahead of the Bitcoin white paper. Things that David says in post using terms like censorship-resistant, trustless system, consensus, it's almost like he never changed. And the way that you look at this, you could see how David fits the bill to be Satoshi Nakamoto. Even somebody said David can clearly be seen chatting with Satoshi on early forums. It would be a 100 IQ move to pretend to talk with yourself on early forums just to hide your identity. I do not believe David is Satoshi, although he could do what Satoshi did. Who knows for sure? But a lot of people would argue that David Schwartz is definitely Satoshi. You know why the Bitcoin maxis don't want to believe that? Because if that is true, then everything we've been telling them for years is also true, that Bitcoin is just a beta test coin and XRP is the real Bitcoin. Stanford warns future of crypto dependence on regulation, quantum safe systems, digital dollar competition. So in this article, Stanford University is saying that some cryptocurrencies will not be quantum resistant. They also go on to talk about how infrastructure matters, how cryptocurrencies currently operate with the policy environment, and the lack of framework affects American users, consumers, and investors, who are often confused about the basic workings of cryptocurrencies and their markets. So even Stanford is calling for regulatory clarity, also making sure that certain cryptocurrencies are quantum proof. We already know Bitcoin's going to struggle in that aspect. Blackrock warns of quantum computing threat in Bitcoin ETF risk disclosure. You know, Blackrock warned about a lot of problems with Bitcoin. Their filing covers concerns about regulatory actions, energy consumption, mining concentration in China, network forks, and prior market events like the collapse of FTX. Why did they put that in there? Now, it could be just to warn investors, like they had to put that in there, but everything that they mentioned is true about Bitcoin. You know, the only person that I could think of that told us the truth about Bitcoin is the CEO from Franklin Templeton. Take a listen. Bitcoin is the greatest distraction from the greatest disruption that is coming to financial services. I think AI is probably the other big disruption there. But and there's so much noise around a lot of things like FTX and others. But if you bring the technology down to its core value, it does three things. One is it allows a payment mechanism. Number two, it allows smart contracts to be programmed into the token. And three, because it's a general ledger, it has a source of truth. In other words, a source of transparency is what she's saying. But she is probably one of the only ones that wanted to warn Bitcoin investors. Listen, you're holding the distraction. The disruption's over here. XRP, XLM, XDC, and so on. And remember, this comes from smoke. XRP only needs to 20 times to dethrone Bitcoin, and that is documented by Wisdom Tree. You know, Wisdom Tree has also been telling the truth about Bitcoin as well, but, you know, people don't realize it. They look at the price of something and they're like, okay, it's sitting at $90,000 or close to $100,000, so it must be a good investment. Then you start to dig deeper and you start to realize a lot of Bitcoin's value is not real value. That's why when you invest into utility and use case, you're investing in actual value. And even she went on to talk about FTX as well. Same thing with Blackrock CK. A value bubble is currently detected in both Bitcoin and Ethereum, but not in XRP, which is attributed to Ripple's technological superiority over the two largest cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin and Ethereum tend to move in close correlation with each other, while XRP exhibits a distinct and less correlated price behavior compared to both. And it's documented 2 times. And again, this is coming from Wisdom Tree as well. They're already telling you they're in a bubble. What happens to bubbles? They eventually pop. David Schwartz answering a question about what he believes will drive the value of XRP in the next few years. Take a listen to this. But our first question is around, really what's going to be driving value to XRP, particularly kind of around the cross-border and more like enterprise payments and financial use cases. Yeah, so you guys can all see the question on the screen. I think the big thing that's going to keep XRP like in its central role is its privilege placed on the XRP ledger. XRP is the only token that you can pay transaction fees in. It's the only token that every account can receive. The payment engine during pathfinding always looks for XRP liquidity first, and XRP is auto-bridged through the order book. So XRP liquidity is sort of preferentially taken over to other types of liquidity just from order crossing. So XRP is always going to have a special place as a sort of liquidity tool on the XRP ledger. Like I said, anything that moves across the XRP ledger, it's going to look for XRP for liquidity. Even if it's RLUSD, moving across the XRP ledger, nothing is replacing XRP. And this also comes from smoke. Remember, if XRP has a higher value, it increases the value of the solution because it increases the liquidity on the network. With a higher value, XRP can convey a higher value than other currencies. And if you don't think Ripple wants XRP to rise in value, when XRP was over $2.50 per coin at the beginning of 2018, Chris Larsen, Ripple's co-founder and former CEO, was among the richest people in the world due to his shares of XRP. Same thing with Brad Garlinghouse. Now imagine XRP hitting 3 digits. There's a good chance Chris Elson will be the richest man in the world, most likely followed by Brad Garlinghouse. They want XRP to go up in price as well. They're not creating a replacement for XRP. I still see people saying that every single day on X. Ripple depends on XRP. As one might expect, XRP is by far the most used currency on the ledger in terms of payment volume. Ripple needs XRP. You could opt out to using XRP with Ripple, but they complement each other. XRP makes Ripple's technology even faster and even cheaper. That's why it will be used. Here is why XRP could win the DeFi race against Ethereum and Solana. All things XRP suggested that this might soon change due to both networks' inherent problems. In particular, the community figure noted that Ethereum is too expensive as transactions cost around $20 to $70. On the other hand, the XRP proponent noted that while Solana is fast and cheap, it has been plagued by network outages and centralization fears over the years. Solana is always down when it's needed most. It's going to continue to happen in the future, and that's why XRP is going to outpace both Ethereum and Solana in DeFi. We're going to see so many projects coming to the XRP ledger all throughout the rest of this year. Next year, it's going to be even more, especially with institutional adoption. Hoskin says integrating Cardano with XRP and Bitcoin will quadruple its TVL beyond Ethereum and Solana combined. Take a listen to Charles here. When we look at the next 5 years, our big area of growth is likely going to come from XRP and from Bitcoin. Yeah. Because we can do things for them, and that's a win-win. And when you add that together, that TVL is going to be 4 times larger than Ethereum and Solana combined. Charles wants to use the network to fix some of the issues with XRP and Bitcoin, and I think he's going down the right path. Charles changed a lot over the last year and a half. All of a sudden, it's not just Cardano ADA first. Now he wants to grow out and expand with all these other networks, and I like the fact that Ripple and Cardano are working together. Cardano is also working with Hedera as well. FTX EU creditors can now withdraw money from Backpack Exchange, so it looks like some of that FTX money is going back to the rightful owner, and some of that money is most likely going to come back into crypto. Maybe we see some of these people make a lot of money finally. A lot of people are going to most likely get this money back, and some of it isn't going to go back into crypto. I think a lot of people went and invested into crypto on other exchanges, trying to recoup their losses from FTX's crash as well. In other words, what I'm saying is not all these people left crypto, but a lot of people got into investing with FTX because of the celebrities. And I think a lot of those people most likely left crypto for good after the crash. But anybody that gets invested in the crypto now, over the coming months, they're going to make life-changing money. No matter how much they put in, it is going to be incredible, and especially if they invest in the right cryptocurrencies. But things are going to change this year. This is going to be the biggest year we have ever seen in crypto. And you could see it all building that momentum. Even Monica Long sees it. And I think she's right. Brad Garlinghouse said the same thing. 2025, it's going to be big, and we are going to capitalize on that. This is going to be the year that we get rich together, so stay patient and stay positive. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.